Want to welcome you to the Music Industry Podcast. I've got my guest here, Mr. Idris Muhammad. How you doing,
It's
Idris?
going. Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir. How you doing?
doing good. Well, one of us has had a recording contract and been in the music industry, and it's not me. So it's great that Idris is here. Um, but yeah, there's been a number of things that have gone on in the music industry over the last couple of weeks. That would be
Right.
great to have an open opportunity to and dialogue. And I'll just run a few of the things over. We had the Grammy Awards, and we had Jay-Z having his little speech and sort of how the award ceremony has been.
Right.
We've got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominations that have just come out,
Right.
and how the politics around who gets nominated and who gets to win and gets inducted. Um, we've got the Super Bowl Usher performance yesterday, and things around that, and even Beyonce and Taylor Swift and the whole dominance. So quite a lot to go through, but it's just be able to, as I said, have an open conversation and open dialogue, and not point fingers, but just to share our opinions and stuff. But
Cool.
yeah. So I mean, for yourself, I mean, what have been, I've listed a couple of things here. I mean, are the things that if you wanted to start somewhere, which would you want to go to, the Super Bowl or the Grammys or?
All right. Let's start backwards. So let's go for the Super Bowl because everybody knows the Super Bowl was yesterday. So
Yeah.
let's go with the Super Bowl first. So, what did you think?
Um, are you talking about the actual game, or are you talking about the performance? The
The
performance.
performance?
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I must admit, there was a lot of hype with Usher
Hmm.
showing up, and I think that they did a big thing to hype it. As it started, I was underwhelmed as it started based on the hype.
Okay.
But then as he got into it, I started to say, "Man, this guy has a
He has
catalog."
hits, right?
Yeah, I
Right.
was just like, "Man, look at," and he's been around for all these years and he's still relevant. And I
Right.
had to say, okay, I needed to give him my hat because he came out as a kid and he still looks, he's still in his 40s. He almost feels as if we forget how long he's been in the game and how many hits and how relevant. And I
Right.
like the whole Michael Jackson tribute by, using the one white glove kind of thing and
Right.
slipping it
Right.
in. So it was a really, really good performance. And I had to celebrate Usher for, his durability and for being a voice of R&B, and he really represented yesterday. I mean, what were your thoughts about seeing Usher?
I agree, and I'm going to go a tad bit further because the music industry has changed so much since how you how you we talk about the New Jack Swing era and things of that nature, the 80s and 90s, if you will. The
Yeah,
music industry has changed so much, whereas the artist now is the A&R, he's the marketer, and he also does um, artist development. These artists are not developed now.
mm,
Usher is a developed artist. Beyonce is a developed artist. You need these things to bring you to that next level. Nowadays, a lot of artists are just putting out records, and they
yeah,
don't know how to develop themselves. No difference than the NBA or the NFL, where you have to be developed to do things like answer questions, to do things like take pictures. And I think Usher Usher is been developed. So that's the reason why he's last so long. I mean, he has a great body of work. You got to understand, he came out in the early 90s, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so, and he came out with a lot of artists that now are gone. Like you have the Tevin Campbells, you have the Marios, which Mario's still doing his thing. But you have all of these artists that are not that, and don't get me wrong, they had artist development also. So it's much more than artist development. It's the people that you have on your team, it's your songs, it's your production team. And yesterday, I think he showed that he has longevity, and I think Chris Brown is coming right behind him. So I think I really love the performance. I love the fact that they represented Atlanta. At the end, they were like he was. If you notice, at the end, he was doing this chant saying, "I'm showing the world the A Town. I'm showing the world the A Town," because
mm,
I don't know if you remember the Source Awards. It was some years ago where, you know, rap was over on the West Coast, and an Outcast came up and said, the South has something to say, and the South really, really, really has something to say.
Yeah.
So I really loved the performances. I loved his performance. So
Yeah,
yeah.
there was a lot of talk just as we finish up with Usher about his performance with Alicia Keys,
Uh-huh.
and they thought, oh, he got a little too cozy, and
Right.
then and Swiss Beats took to social media to say, look, man, did you see how beautiful my wife was? Did you see
Right.
her dress cover the stadium? Their
Right.
performers, they made it look real, but it's not as if all of a sudden Swiss is sitting down there watching his wife perform. He's not like, oh, Usher's trying to take my wife or anything like that. So,
No, no, yeah.
that's how because that's the picture that went around, and everyone started to have start thinking otherwise. But if you're an actor, you're a performer, it was there was nothing but love, no, as friendly love in there. But it just shows the power of things that people are looking for holes and stuff. But I mean, Alicia
Right.
was looking great, did her thing. Usher brought in yeah, Ludacris and Little John. They got her to
Her
play yeah. It was a very classy sort of performance, and it's one of the best in recent years.
yeah.
I can't compare. People when they start doing their top 10 performances, and they put Michael's sometimes number 5, number 6, and I said to them, when Michael was hired to do this, there was no one. He didn't look and see. Oh, what have these guys done? So let me do mine better. He was the
Right.
standard. He was the first to do it. So he
Right.
had nothing to go by. So he just performed, and so everyone else had been looking what Michael did and trying to get as good as close as possible. So you can't put him in the bracket because he's remember, I don't know if you remember it when he did he first we saw there were two monitors, and then
Yes, he came up
somebody
on
that
his
they
side.
came up in his side. I'm like, what the hell? And then he pops out. They only have 15 minutes. He stood there for 2.5 minutes, not moving.
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
executives were screaming like, "What's he doing? Doesn't he know we just have a show?" He didn't care. He was Michael
He
Jackson.
exactly. And he
He
ended up
just
he only did 3 songs. He
he
did
did,
Billie Jean, he did Black or White, and he did one
I
the
think
one that
healed
he
the
opened
world.
with.
Yeah, healed. They finished
Yeah,
with he finished. Yeah,
yeah.
he finished.
So
Yeah. But and then he had the whole painting around the stadium. Everyone held up a mirror and a mirror. But he, as I said, there was
he set
nothing
the
to
bar.
compare. He set the bar, so it's easy to start saying, "Oh, we'll do a little bit of what he did and add on top of that." But
Right.
so yeah. But as I said, good performance, and I have to. My only thing is the fact that it shows how much power Jay Z has, because we're going to talk about Jay Z next and Grammys.
True. Right,
Because
right.
Usher says, yeah, he got a call from Jay Z to say, and that he got the hint that Jay Z wanted him to do the show, and it's like, wow, Jay Z's handpicking. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna get you. Oh, Dre, do you want to do it? Let me bring you in there. So it shows you he's a very powerful person in industry. So when we talk about the Grammys, you can start to see. I mean, are your thoughts about the influence he has on the biggest show in American in sports history, in sporting calendar, that he controls who performs and what impact that has on your career. What are your thoughts?
I mean, that's big. I'm glad. I'm absolutely happy. I'm actually happy for Jay-Z. Um, I like the man he's become. Um, he's made he's made choices where he put people around him that'll get him to that next level. He's very articulate, and I think that I like what he's doing. I mean, people will say that they don't like what he's doing. People will say that he's handpicking people from to perform at the Super Bowl, but at the end of the day, he's picking great people. Okay, so he had Rihanna last year. He had obviously Usher this year. He had Dr. Dre the year before. So he's doing. I think he's doing a great job, and it does show how much power he has. But still, he has power, but he doesn't have enough power to get his wife that album of the year
Okay,
award, which will
so
probably be next year. I'm
okay,
just,
so
you know,
yeah, well, no, now we're moving on to the Grammys,
right.
and for anyone who might not have, if you hadn't watched it, I think it was a week ago. Taylor Swift won Album of the Year for the fourth time. So in doing so, she became the the person who's won it the most times, overtaking Stevie Wonder and
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Jay-Z was given an Icon Award that Dr. Dre has a
Dr.
segment
Dre.
within the
Yes.
Grammys where he can nominate somebody for an Icon Award. So Jay-Z was
Right.
given an Icon Award for what he's done.
Right.
And while accepting his speech, he talked about, well, he said a number of things, and we'll go into them individually. He talked about, the categories. Maybe people are being put in categories that they shouldn't be. He
Mm-hmm.
spoke about the history of the Grammys, where black music was given only a few categories compared to other genres. Bit by bit, it's expanding. And the one I would talk about the most would be the fact that he said Beyonce has never won Album of the
Mm-hmm.
Year, even though Beyonce has won the most number of Grammys and
Mm-hmm.
has been nominated the most number of times, and he's second most nominated. And he
Right.
says, how come she hasn't won Album of the Year based on their standards? That seems flawed.
Right.
I have my thoughts, but it'll be interesting to start with you, Idris, about that.
Okay. Okay. So you know me, I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist in certain situations. Plus, I know the music industry. So if you think back, someone else said the same thing in 2009, but he just wasn't as articulate, and I think he was drunk, right?
Is that Kanye
Plus, he's
West?
bipolar. But he did this. He said the same exact thing that Jay-Z's saying now. That Beyonce, at the time, Beyonce hadn't won as many Grammys, but she was
Yeah.
definitely eligible, right? And so he jumps on stage. If people hadn't known that part, he jumps on stage when Taylor Swift is receiving her award and says Beyonce had the best album of the year, which I thought was true. Okay, fine and dandy. Okay, but he's saying the same thing Jay-Z said in 2019. Kanye West said it. Jay-Z saying the same thing today, 2024, right? So here's my theory. Um, I think when Kanye did that, right? I don't think it was the right thing to do. I think again, he was acting out of emotion. But after Kanye did that, if you noticed, Taylor Swift won so many more awards after that. Because this is how I feel about things, right? There's this saying in business where the saying is you never tell a mother her baby's ugly, right? And
Okay.
so let's look at the music industry as a mother, right? And let's look at Kanye West as someone criticizing what the music industry is doing. So you never tell a mother she's doing the wrong thing with her child. Because what happens is now what the mother does is he or she says, I'll show you what I'm going to do. Now, Taylor Swift is going to win this, and she's going to win that, and she's going to win. Now, I'm not saying that's all because of Kanye, but what I am saying is that there's ways to do things, and I don't think that was the right way of doing it. Now, fast forward to 2024, when Jay-Z does it, if you noticed on the internet, they were bashing him also, right? Saying that he shouldn't have said that and blah, blah, blah. And maybe, but it's the truth. If she's won, so many Grammys, why hasn't she won Album of the Year? Why? And I think my prediction is if she puts out she's put out a country album, so I don't know about
Yeah,
that. But
it's
if she
coming out in
puts,
March. Yes,
yeah.
It's
So
an
if she
album's coming
put,
out in March.
right, if she puts out another album within the next 2 years or something like that,
No,
R&B,
the album. She's got an album coming out in
right,
March.
she has a
Yeah,
third one, right? So
and
if that
yeah,
happens to be R&B, I guarantee she'll win. She'll win album of the year.
no,
Guarantee.
it's country. Now here's my thing. I mean,
Okay.
I think, and this is just my opinion, that he
Okay.
said that one. Yes, it's true. She's not won it, but I think he
Mm-hmm.
said that to put them on hold to say, okay, she's coming out with an album. When you're considering if she doesn't win, then I know
Uh
there's
huh.
something wrong there.
That
Um,
that that is a good analogy also.
Two, you know, I I think I don't think Beyonce has come out with any work that has warranted winning Album of the Year other than a Sasha Fierce album, which had the Single Ladies,
Hmm.
had the If I Was a Girl, had that double album, which I thought was her finest work. That's Sasha Fierce. I Am Sasha Fierce. I thought that was her finest work. Um, better than Angels in Love. I think that album probably was good enough to win Album of the Year because it had singles that were really crossed over. Other than that, I mean, I don't think the other albums have been good enough to win Album of the Year, despite the
Okay.
fact that she gets nominated anytime, but also Jay Z then exposed himself as saying the hypocrisy is you've nominated my wife. She's won more Grammys than anyone else, but she's not had an album of the year. So what they're saying is, yeah, we've been giving her Grammys because of these singles, but we
Hmm.
don't think her body of work as a whole is good enough.
Okay.
But so in a way, they're pretty much saying, we're doing you a favor, kind of thing. She's a big star, but we
Right.
don't think her work's that great
Okay.
as a whole to give her that award. And yet he's putting them on blast because he's like, look, she's coming out with something, and I need you guys to make sure you could do right. I'm saying it publicly because
Hmm.
if I say it behind the scenes, people will start saying they didn't know.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if she's come up with an album that's like, wow, this is an amazing album. What is she? Has she brought her own version of Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, or has she
Mm.
had her own Thriller album? I mean, which the people who won them in the past, especially on the R&B side, we talk about how albums are classics.
Okay.
Which of Beyonce's album is a classic that we're like, man, this is the album that we hold on to?
That's a good question, and that's a good opinion. I think it's like two-sided. So bear with me here. I feel that as a whole, Black people in general don't get their accolades as it comes to as it pertains to this industry, whether it's music or whether it's art, movies, things of that nature. Like so, for instance, if you notice, Malcolm Denzel Washington didn't win anything for Malcolm X, and I think that that
Yeah,
was an amazing performance. He didn't win anything for. Wait, did he win something for Glory? I don't want to. I don't want to sound a lie.
he won
Did he?
Best Supporting Actor for that
All
was his
right. For
first
okay.
Oscar for Glory for Best
For
Supporting
Glory.
Actor.
Okay,
Yeah,
so he won something for Glory, but in my opinion, Malcolm X was bar top tier. So he didn't win anything for that, but he won for Training Day.
yeah.
Halle Berry didn't win anything for Losing Isaiah. I don't think she should have won anything for Losing Isaiah because that was at the beginning of her career. But I think it was a great movie. But she won for Monsters Ball,
Monsters Ball. Yeah,
right? And so I think in this particular industry that the way the system is built, they want to show people of color in a certain light, and they want to give them awards for showing them in a certain light. And I think that that's a problem all across the board. Angela Bassett should have easily won for Tina Turner. What's Love Got to Do with It? But she didn't. But they gave her an honorary Oscar this year. So I think, on a nutshell, as a whole, on balance, I think as it pertains to this industry, and a lot of people will agree with me when I say this, that we do not get our just due our just due or our accolades as it pertains to these awards. Now, on another note, when you say, do you think Beyonce made a great album? I think what was the album with the first? I think Beyonce's first album was pretty good. I don't think it was album of the year worthy.
yeah. That's
But do you think Taylor Swift's was? That's the question.
yeah. No, as I said, do I think no? So because Taylor Swift has moved from say country to pop,
Right.
and I think and then she releases. You've got to understand the standards that they're on because she released songs that would dominate the Billboard 100.
Right.
Um, Beyonce's dominating the R&B
R&B
side,
one. Right.
and
Right.
so they may look and see is does the album talk to multiple genres. So a
Okay.
country, a pop rock, a sort of those type of albums tend to do a lot better than say straight R&B or straight country. I mean, you need to be doing something new and radical.
I agree.
And the first time Beyonce got nominated for Album of the Year was, as I mentioned, was the I Am Sassafras. That was her first nomination for album of the year, for I Am Sassafras, which I thought was her best album. Then she got nominated for album of the year. Was it The Fame Monster? I don't know who, if that was, she was, no, she was alongside
Lemonade,
yeah,
the Lemonade
for,
album.
well, yeah, so she got nominated for album of the year for Beyonce, for the
Right,
Beyonce album, her fifth album.
right,
She didn't win that. Got nominated for Lemonade,
right,
and she didn't win that. And then I think she got nominated again for Renaissance, and didn't win.
right.
And I'm thinking, well, those. I mean, she's not put out a great album in a long time, which I would think would land, even though she's been nominated in many different things, and she's winning based on, Renaissance, or whether she features on the Megan Thee Stallion record. So if Megan wins, Beyonce
She
automatically
wins.
wins
Yeah,
for being
right,
featured on the. When
right.
Lady Gaga won for one of her singles,
She
Beyonce
got one for
featured. So
Telephone. Yeah,
yeah. So she was winning awards for featuring in the or doing a song and a movie. So she was winning then there, but none of her albums have been like classic albums that were like, wow, this is. I mean, Dangerous in Love is a nice album, but it was not a. As I said, can you compare it to Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, or can you
no,
compare it to any? So, what has she done? I think I Am Such a Fierce was good. So my question then becomes, she's not done. I don't think she's done enough to deserve winning the album of the year. And I almost have concern. I think about the Grammy Awards and how they decide to give Beyonce. She's won more awards than anyone else, more than Michael Jackson, more than Luther Vandross, more than Stevie Wonder, more than Quincy Jones, more than Babyface. And I'm thinking, well, goodness, is their body of work better than them, or has the award itself lost the value it is that Beyonce was, if we're judging an artist by the amounts of times they've won an award. I don't know if I could say that's true for, say, Beyonce or her husband Jay-Z, who has probably been nominated right
just as
behind her.
much. Yeah, because
just as much.
He's like 24, I think, 20
Yeah.
something. Yeah. Okay, so let's play devil's advocate, and I'd like the viewers to weigh in on this if they could.
Yeah.
So, okay, so in music, there's this machine that's behind you, right? This machine pushes you to where they want you to be, right? Taylor Swift, in my opinion, and I don't want the Beehive to get on me. I don't want the Beehive.
Those are Swifties, I mean.
Okay, I don't want the Beehive to get on me, right? But I feel that Taylor Swift is much more approachable, and I say this because Beyonce has this exclusivity to her, right? You see her when you see her. You see her when you see Jay-Z. Right? The marketing behind Taylor Swift is tremendous. And this is what I mean by this. Ray Daniels brought this out the other day. He said, now, have you ever noticed when there's an award show and they pan to Taylor Swift, she's usually dancing supporting, right? And so that is an amazing marketing strategy, is because me in the music industry, when you're in that production room, what you're doing is you're trying to find someone to pan that camera to. Either it's the person that's crying, either it's the person that's mad because they didn't win the award, or either it's the person that's happy and dancing. If you notice, they always pan towards her because she's always dancing. She's like someone that is like enjoying the whole concert or the whole show. It could be country, it could be, and so in my opinion, that's a great marketing strategy, is because you become approachable to people, right? And so she has this huge machine behind her that I think her machine behind her is the girl, the American born raised girl, from America. You know what I mean? She's that corn fed American Girl. And then Beyonce has this exclusivity tour where it's like when you see her, you're so like a prince, if you will. Like, oh my God, I just saw Beyonce. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think that these two machines are completely the opposite, right? And so that being said, also when you come down to it, Taylor Swift writes a good percentage of her own songs, right? And so when you write your songs, in my opinion, emotionally, you are much more you're much able more able to when you're singing these songs,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, the crowd understands and believes you more, in
Yeah.
my opinion. And also, you know, her dating life, you know what I'm saying? She puts her dating life in all of her songs. And I mean, what do people like to hear the most of? Gossip. When they hear a song, they're like, oh, that's when she was dating John Mayer, or that's when she was dating such and such. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
goodness,
saying?
yeah.
And
She's
so,
dated more than 10 big. I mean,
right,
I
right.
mean,
And so
more than
people,
more than she's dated more people than Leo DiCaprio. If you guys need to
right,
keep count, but anyway, go
right,
ahead. Yeah,
right. And so people they become like, oh, this is about that. You know how people are
yeah,
with gossip, you know. And then on the other hand, when you think of Beyonce, it's an exclusivity thing with her. And not saying she should be the same thing as Taylor Swift. I'm not saying that. And there's a reason why I'm saying there's a reason why I'm not saying that. But when Beyonce comes out with the Lemonade album, which was mostly about Jay-Z, you know what I'm saying? You know, it's a different kind of thing. You get what I mean? It's sort of like, and I'm gonna go on record and say, because this is my controversial side, I'm gonna go on record and say, I don't think this is controversial. I think this is truth. I'm gonna go on record and say, like, as a Black artist, you can't tarnish your name and come back from that. Understand what I'm saying? You can't be a hoe as a Black artist and come back from that. You just can't. Where you can be a Marilyn Monroe, you could be a Kim Kardashian and you know what I mean? And literally come back from it. You get what I mean? And so, in my opinion, I'm not saying that Beyonce should put out all her business out, but what I am saying is that the world looks at two different artists that are two different colors. They look at them differently, and that's just the way the world is now. I will say that you are right. I think, in my opinion, and in your opinion, that when you say that you don't believe that Beyonce, her albums, you know, lived up to Taylor Swift's, I agree. I agree. I
yeah,
agree.
yeah. And but you are right when it comes to um. Ever since Beyonce got married to Jay-Z, she withdrew, and
Yeah.
so she doesn't do interviews. It feels as if she's just controlled. So she, even when she does interviews, it's almost it's not. If you look back at early Destiny's Child Beyonce and Dangerously in Love Beyonce,
Mm-hmm.
she was approachable, and she was she, you know, you could see was joking
Right.
around, and so relatable. In fact, that's why I said her early albums, people embraced them because they embraced her.
Right.
Then she's gone into this whole you know, she releases an album, drops them, we don't, no press, no talk,
Right.
um disappears, and she, yes, no emotions when she's doing her thing,
Right.
when she wherever she's at. And as you can see, if you looked at the Super Bowl, Taylor Swift is there jogging, beard, jumping around
Right.
every touchdown, and
Right.
Beyonce is sitting down there with a hat and looking, you know,
Right.
almost like I can't say much and stuff. So it is what people relate to. And yes, no one's denying she's an amazing performer
Right.
and all that stuff. But it's, as I said, when you're buying these albums or when you are nominating and stuff, you're looking at the whole package, and you're seeing what emotions have you put into this music. Are you just now going country because yes, you're from Texas, but
Right.
are we going to connect? Are we going to believe in it? And I'm sure that you know, Sony is going to be playing this song so often that you're going to have to, you know, Renaissance.
Right.
It got played so often that everyone just started singing along with it after a while. But you know, it's not like back in the day where you listen to stuff and like, you know, I don't think this hits
Yes.
me.
Yes.
Now it's like they
Yes.
keep feeding
Yes.
to you, and before
Yes.
you know it, you're
Yes.
saying, "You can't break my heart." And you're like, "What? I
Yes.
hated the song when I first,
Yes.
but because it's
Yes.
everywhere, I might as well
Yes.
dance along with it." And
Yes.
that's what they forced you to enjoy it.
Yes. Like when we've been on other interviews and things of that nature, when you talk about the New Jack Swing era and what have you, what do you say? It's the way the music made you feel,
Yeah.
right? It's the way it's nostalgia. You know what I mean? It's nostalgic. Like, so for instance, I always say, because I'm a food critic and a food stylist. Like, so I can make the best jollof rice in the world, right? But it will not compare to your mother's jollof rice, even though it may not be as good as mine, but it won't compare because there's nostalgia behind your mother's jollof rice. So no matter what, it's the nostalgia behind the thing. So like the music has to make you feel a certain way. And if it's just not making, if you, like you said, if you have to force feed it to someone, if you hear it on the radio enough, then, oh yeah, this is my jam. This is my jam. But how does it make you feel? How does the music make you feel? How many times, in my opinion, have you heard someone say that, this, like they said a lot about the 70s, like, oh, how I feel, how it made me, because I was going through something, how I,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
This song
it's
spoke to me.
right. It's all about this song spoke to me. And so for me, it goes back to like a lot of times when artists write their own material, and I'm not saying this is, I'm not trying to say this is bad or good. I'm just saying in general, when you write a poem, you're writing from how you're feeling at the time.
Yeah.
And so say you're writing a poem on heartbreak or love, and however you're feeling at that particular time, that's your feeling. Now, that feeling is not only exclusive to you, it's exclusive to other people also, right? So it's like, that's how people can come, oh, when you wrote that, I thought you were talking about me and
Yeah.
blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And I think that there's a disconnect sometimes with a lot of artists when they don't write a lot of their own material. I think that there's a disconnect.
Yeah. And but people will say, well, Beyonce is it's an credit for writing stuff.
Right.
But no one, and no one, that we've heard, it's not hard. I mean, I had TL Cross on, and he and his friends and his
Mm-hmm.
crew wrote a song, "Get It On Tonight." Um, they wrote the lyrics, they did the production.
Mm-hmm.
And Montel sang the exact same song, no
Mm-hmm.
change to their production, but he's listed as a writer. Now they
Right.
have nothing to, but that's how the label probably presented it. Like, hey, here's a track, you get some publishing on it. So, not saying that Beyonce doesn't write all her stuff, but
Right. No, no, not at all.
and I think Diane Warren
Mm-hmm.
commented on when she saw some of the songs that on the Renaissance album. Says,
Mm-hmm.
how come there are like 8 or 9 different writers on a song? Because she was like, man, that's just so many.
Right.
And some people, some black journalists got upset and said, "Hey, don't you know that we do a lot of, we sample a lot and we have a lot of different things, and it's how we create music." And she had to apologize because she was getting a lot of backlash
Mm-hmm.
for raising that point where, how do you convey the message of a song when you are sampling so many different places and everyone else is chipping in?
Right.
Whose voice are we listening to? In a way, that's what she was trying to talk to. I can understand if you had when she's writing a song with David Foster. So David Foster
Mm-hmm.
would come up with the melody, and she would come up with the lyrics. And so you're
Right.
getting a come like he's interpreting the lyrics, and here's the music, or she's listening to the music and then writing lyrics towards it. But they're telling the same stories, like a writer and an illustrator combining to create stuff. But
Right.
when you have 10 people writing and on it and adding bits and bits, it doesn't seem to be as complete as we said. And when Taylor does her stuff, she may collaborate with a few people,
Mm-hmm.
but it feels as if she's writing from an experience that she
Right.
has. So as I said, um, I it would, if I was to put a bet, if I had to, if, based on Jay-Z's speech where he criticized the Grammys and the voters,
Mm-hmm.
if Beyonce's album, which the two singles have come out now,
Mm-hmm.
on average at best, if for some reason she dominates the Grammy Award nominations come the end of the year, and then sweeps away wins 6 or 7 Grammys, including Album of the Year, I would believe now. That's when I'll come up and say the whole thing's a stitch up. That this
Okay.
is our plan. If
Okay.
that's what happens, the fact
Okay.
that he made that speech, she surprised us with a new album. and she's going to sweep the awards in next year, unless she comes up with some magical songs on the next couple of singles that come out. I'll believe the whole thing's a stitch up between
Yeah.
between the power brokers. So
Great point.
yes, so but just finally, just so we don't as I said, we're celebrating Beyonce and Taylor Swift and all these guys, but just in general, when you think back at in the 70s and 80s when the Grammys first came out, there was just favorite R&B song and
Right.
album,
Right.
and then there was then it wasn't a while back until they had favorite hip hop song.
Right.
Now that now there's probably 6 awards for for hip hop alone. I think Killer Mike won 3 Grammys from his.
3.
Yeah,
Right.
and then there's different performances and videos, and I think there's R&B album, R&B single, performance. So there's group and duo. So there's a lot more. And unfortunately, in the 80s and 70s, when we were really producing our best music, and even in the 90s, there weren't enough awards for us there weren't enough awards to go around within the R&B mind, and so we don't have many multiple award winners. I mean, and so that's why I stopped. I didn't rate the Grammys, and I still don't, because I don't think I think it's a popularity contest.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, we don't seem to have our own awards that are really that we could really celebrate. Soul Train used to be, but I think Soul Train has lost its value.
Right. The production on Soul Train is horrible. If you saw the last year's, it was the worst.
Wow.
In my opinion. Soul Train Awards last year, they did it outside. It was horrible.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Yeah. Well, then again, you have to realize when it was at its best, it was owned by Bob Jones. It was owned by
Bob Jones.
The fact that it's now owned by Viacom MTV, it means that they're part of the push to degrade black music.
Absolutely.
I think I remember watching, I think it was BET Awards, and I was doing some work in front of the TV. I was on my computer, and it was playing on the background, and I kind of looked up, and my wife walked in and says, "What are you watching?" And and it was, I can't remember who it was, mainly hip hop artists who were who were performing, and women were twerking, but I didn't. It was almost as if she was like, "What are you watching?" I didn't even realize that what's going on. This is BET Awards, or say Soul Train. Yes, okay. Anthony was just kind of correcting me that Soul Train Awards used to be owned by Don Cornelius. Yes, and unfortunately he sold it to BET.
Right.
And BET is owned by Viacom, which is
Viacom,
MTV.
yes.
Yeah,
which is MTV and VH1, and also
VH1.
And Viacom is owned by one family.
Yeah, so they've diluted not just the award ceremonies, but also the music that we're pushing out. But it's just to show that then which award really has the, when Heavy D once said that I'd rather win who needs the Grammy when you got soul, or how valuable the Soul Train Awards were. It was hard to win back in the day.
Right.
It's not the same now.
No, in my opinion, I think that society in itself, it makes us believe that there can only be one. There can only be one Beyonce. There can only be, as it pertains to entertainment, as it pertains to music and art and movies, entertainment. The way that it's the focus on black entertainers is that there can only be one. Only be one Denzel, only be one Angela Bassett. As it pertains to music, there can only be one Beyonce. Whereas other genres, there's much more than one. You can have your Meryl Streeps, you can have your Susan Sarandons, you can have your Goldie Hawns, you can have, you know what I mean? As it pertains to obviously movies. As it pertains to music, you can have your Aerosmith, you can have your Oasis, you can have your U2s, you can have. You know what I mean? So what happens with us is, because they make us feel, or because we feel that there can only be one, we have this crabs in the barrel mentality, where it's like, well, if it's only going to be one, then it's going to be me. And so what happens is, when that one person is up in the spotlight, usually they're doing one of two things. They're usually kicking everybody else down, or the people that are not at that level are talking about that particular person. Well,
Yeah.
they didn't do this and they didn't do that. I mean, listen, Usher, all right, did the Super Bowl yesterday. All right. So I mean that's and Usher's from Atlanta. Well, actually he's from Knoxville, Tennessee, but he reps Atlanta. I mean,
Mm,
give the man his props. You know what I mean? It's
mm.
very interesting how we could just like put each other down for no reason. I mean, they were saying that when, like, I'm going back to what you were saying about, they were saying that he did something like that was not good. I guess it was inappropriate.
With
But he's
with Alicia
yeah,
Keys, yeah,
yeah.
the
But he's
performance.
acting. He's acting. This is he's an entertainer. That's what they do. I mean,
Yeah.
give it a rest. And I just feel that we tear each other down too much as it pertains to the art, because art is about expression, right? So I just think that we need to be a little bit more forgiving and understand that unfortunately there are only a certain spots right now. And like you said, to your point, why don't we have a show where we can just showcase us and things of that nature? And my answer is usually we get them, we sell them off.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? We sell them.
Yeah. Because as I said, because we're going to move on to the Rock and Roll
Right,
Hall of Fame.
right,
But yeah, if we had really put things together, because unfortunately now what happens is we've got we used to have the NCAA Image Awards.
right,
We've now got the Black Music Honors Award.
right,
Then there's the Lady of Soul. There's so many out there that they're not, they don't have weight.
right.
And if you notice in the acting field, they'll have the Golden Globes, they'll have the Academy Awards, and then they'll have the SAG Awards because it's just them voting for themselves. But then that's it,
Mm-hmm.
and when they're promoting a film, they either mention Golden Globes or Academy Award.
Right,
Those are the top. Or when it's in music, they would say 5-time Grammy Award winner or 2-time Grammy no. So they say
right.
we hold that to distinction. It's my thing, and unfortunately, if as in the black community they thought about let's have our own black Hall of Fame, Black Music Hall of Fame,
Right.
which you again respected journalists and music and vets pulling together, and
Mm-hmm.
then we're elevating this award. Um, then you'd know because it was initially set up for rock and roll,
Right.
and of course Little Richie would tell you that yes, well he invented rock and roll, so of course it's
Right.
supposed to be black, but it was really invented for them to celebrate themselves.
Right.
It's only when the Jacksons and Michael and Temps became so big, they had to like, okay, yeah, we need to, yeah, we can't overlook you guys. But
Right.
in general, um, if I look at it, there are the nominations for this year: 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, let me read them out. So Mary J. Blige is nominated for 2024.
Okay.
Mariah Carey,
Okay.
Cher,
Hmm.
Dave Matthews Band, Eric B. and Rakim,
Mm-hmm.
Foreigner,
Mm-hmm.
Peter Frampton,
Okay.
James Addiction, Kool and the Gang,
Okay.
Lenny Kravitz,
Okay.
Oasis, Sinead O'Connor, Ozzy Osbourne, Sade, and A Tribe Called Quest.
Okay. Okay.
There's only, I'm thinking there's only half of them that can get in each year.
Okay. So those are the nominees you're
Those are the
saying, right?
nominees.
Hmm.
What they do now is like it's open to a public vote.
Mm-hmm.
So so if I'm going to vote now, so it's either I'm voting for Mary J. Blige or Eric B. and Rakim, or do I
Mm-hmm.
vote for Tribe Called Quest or Kool and the
Mm-hmm.
Gang?
Mm-hmm.
Um, vote split there.
Yeah.
Now, of course, Oasis, big rock popular band, they'll get in because they've
Right.
got a massive following.
Right.
Um, Dave Matthews Band has a big following. Yep, they'll get their people.
They'll
Ozzy
get in.
Osbourne will get his
Oh, he's
people.
definitely in. Yeah. Because
Sinead
he's
O'Connor just passed away, so there's a big
she'll get in.
sympathy. They're going to push that
Yeah.
through. Sade, love Sade, and I think she'll get enough votes. But I don't know if Eric B and Rakim are going to make it. Neither do
No.
I think a Tribe Called Quest could make it because they're going to split the votes there.
Right.
Kool and the Gang, yeah, you know,
They might get in.
they could, but then we've got Mary J. Blige and Mariah Carey, who has
Mariah
more
Carey, I think Mariah will get in before Mary.
now. So here becomes my dilemma.
Okay.
Missy Elliott got inducted last year.
Right.
Are we saying that Missy Elliott has done more in the music industry than Mary?
No.
Okay, so
Oh,
but you know,
yeah.
Jay-Z got nominated as entered. So has LL Cool J. Oh well, so you have to have been out for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the 25 years came up, Jay-Z got first nomination, got through. Same thing with
Mm-hmm.
Eminem.
Mm-hmm.
LL Cool J, I think there was a massive campaign, but I would have thought he would have gone in before Jay-Z because
Me too.
of
Yeah.
what he'd laid through. Then you start realizing it's a popularity contest. It's not. It will nominate you. That's one thing, but if you don't have the support and the fanfare, because if you go on right now, anyone
Mm-hmm.
can go on to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.com
Right.
and register, and all of a sudden you'd see who's winning in the votes, and they just take the top five.
Oh,
And yeah,
okay.
so that's how it is. So if you've got the biggest fan base, you get yourself in. Whitney Houston's still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That I don't understand. So like as it like between Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey. Come on. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a no. In my opinion, that's a
yeah,
no-brainer.
yeah. But that's the politics of these award shows, and
Right.
you have to you play by their rules. Now, as I mentioned, Jimmy Jam from Jimmy Jam Taylor's, he sits on the board of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
Mm-hmm.
and he and along with others have been working to push through um, more denominations. So hence we're getting more black nominees inside there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it just means that they split the votes. I mean, as I said, who do you vote for between Rakim and Eric B. and Rakim and
Right.
Tribe Called Quest? You're like, most people think a Tribe, they had a style of music and a flow that needs to be in there. Many people think about Eric B. and Rakim and his flow from the 80s and how the impact they had.
Right.
Um, but
Who would you vote for out of Eric B. and Rakim and the Tribe Called Quest?
I think musically,
Mm-hmm.
because Eric B. and Rakim, Rakim was pretty much the main guy,
Uh-huh.
so you pretty much, if you were just saying, would I think Eric B. would go through? I think a Tribe kind of influence other genres, not just hip hop. I
Right.
think I would think that they are more celebrated in the industry,
Mm-hmm.
more so. I think they probably, I think if they got in, people won't be mad at that.
Right.
Yeah, I think people won't be mad at that. If I had
Yeah.
Mary J and Mariah Carey, I think Mary J has done. I just think that
Absolutely.
yeah, they came out, probably within a year of each other. But I think
Mm-hmm.
Mary has just been so consistent, and it's just done something much different.
I
Uh,
agree.
yeah.
I agree. I would take Mary over Mariah, because I'm from that era, and
Mm,
that at the time was like hip hop soul, if you will. If you remember about Mariah, and I don't know whether this is because I don't know whether this was her decision or her company's decision. Like I said earlier, there's machines behind these people, but
mhm.
Mariah didn't really identify as biracial or black when she first came out.
Now she has said recently
Right. Recently,
um,
yeah.
that the label
Hmm.
did that
Right. That's
in
what I'm
order
saying.
to get across, get a bigger market. The
Right.
label picked the song so that she could come across that. Now she said that now. At the time, she said she had, well, she said she was under control by her husband.
Her husband, yes.
No, well, she did. She married him because he was part of the controlling
Right.
aspect of, you want to be signed, you want to get famous, we're going to get married, and she couldn't get out, so he was very controlling and stuff,
Right.
and so she had to do what was asked of her, and it wasn't until she separated from him. That she came out with I think it was Butterflies, where she had
The
Honey,
Butterfly album, yeah,
where
yeah.
she did all of a sudden she brought in, Puffy, and
Puffy,
and then it's like, wait, she
old
went,
dirty bastard.
yeah, oh
All
yeah,
that,
she went
yeah,
all black with us. It's
yeah.
like,
She
oh
went
okay,
all
oh you
black.
one of us? Oh, we
Right,
didn't realize
right,
that.
right. And so my question is, why is that the case? You know what I mean? Why? I mean, still till today, you have to try extra hard just to be black in this industry. You have to try extra hard. You know what I mean? And that is a problem for me. And it's been that way since the beginning of the music industry. And I always say this to artists. I'm like, they have this word called selling out.
Mm,
If black people created and contributed to all forms of music, how could you sell out? It's impossible to sell out. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Everything comes from black people. I mean, the last show we did, I was telling you that America is far, far, far behind as it pertains to Afro beats. You know what I mean? Now it has its own genre at the Grammys.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
You get what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah.
Everybody's moving to Ghana, everybody's going to Accra, everybody's going to Senegal, everybody's going to Gambia, everybody's going to Kenya, things of that nature, which is fine. It's great. I mean, we should have been doing it a long time ago. But what
Yeah.
I am saying is, I feel that, when something is popular, the world capitalizes off of it and we only see a small percentage.
Mm,
And so, to your point, I mean, Tribe Called Quest. I mean, they incorporated jazz in hip hop.
mm,
Bar none. I think that they should be, in the hip hop, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. As it pertains to Eric B. and Rakim, lyrically, I think Rakim is an innovator, but I never really liked all of their albums. I liked the first album, which was pretty cool, but Let the Rhythm Hit, Follow the Leader was okay. You know what I mean? But the first album, Follow the Leader was okay. But the one after that was horrible to me. But that's just me.
yeah,
That's just me.
yeah. Uh, are you there? Are you kind of disappeared? Yeah. No, it's that's definitely the looking at.
Hello?
Yeah, I can see you. You're back. Yeah, so I can see you and hear you now. Can you hear me, Idris? Yeah, can you hear me? It looks as if he came out and he's gonna come back in. Okay. Um, I'm just gonna come through some of the things here. Okay, he's coming back.
Yeah, so I think he changed the game. I think he changed the game here, lyrically, but I would give it to Tribe Called Quest.
You're able to try full quest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I said, the my biggest thing is it's always been when you don't have your own platform, why can't you have um, you know Soul Music Hall of Fame or Urban Music Hall of Fame, where it celebrates you're celebrating rock and roll, country, you're
Hmm.
celebrating just music for black people. Even if it, as I said, all the genres, even if you have um, black people singing Afrobeat and stuff, but it's musical black origin,
Right.
um, and you are then putting them in a Hall of Fame that actually is it's saying, look, if they're not letting you get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is fine. It was started off by one guy, and
Hmm.
then other people join in and became the standard. It's not been around for more than 25 or so years.
Right.
It's not been so. It started off 1 year and they just pushed it and it grew, and it's not hard to really pull resources and pull to make a respectable ceremony award, a Hall of
Right.
Fame, and letting that be the benchmark, and then at least when you celebrate your own, it then means that anything else is bonus.
Right.
Because as I said, why should Mariah and Mary start fighting to get in? Who's going to get in?
Right.
What?
Right.
Why shouldn't they both not be celebrated? But the fact
Absolutely.
that Whitney Houston is still not nominated, It still hasn't got in. Chaka Khan only just got in last year.
Just last
But
year, yeah.
she, not to talk about stuff she did with Rufus and her stuff. So it tells
Hmm.
you that look, they're not really. They don't really. I don't even know if Luther has been nominated, has been
I don't
inducted.
think. I
So
don't know. I don't. I don't know. I
yeah,
don't know. I don't think. I don't think he's been inducted. I don't even know if he's been nominated. But
no.
again,
So
like I said before, it's like the way the industry is. It makes us feel like they can only be one
yeah,
or two,
yeah,
maybe. That's it. And so, what do we do about this? It's like because it doesn't go only black music. It's people of color music. I mean, you have Brazilian music that's amazing. You have Afro Latina music. You have Puerto Rican. You have salsa. You have all of these things that derive from obviously Africa. But there's so many cultures that can be celebrated, and
mhm,
I just feel that I feel that pop culture is nothing but popular music, and popular music is just stuff that people like to listen to. I think it's watered down. I think popular music, in my opinion, is watered down other things. You know what I mean? As a songwriter, I was always told that you concentrate on the melody, is because the melody is the thing that people that can't sing or sing in the shower. It's the thing
mhm,
that it's the thing that catches people's ear, the melody. And so if you have a brilliant melody and you put brilliant words inside that melody, you have a hit record. Add some nostalgic stuff that people can all, relate to, and then you have a hit record. So it's all about the melody. So it's like, how many songs have you sang that you really didn't know the words to, but you're like, oh man, this is a catchy tune. And I
yeah,
just think that, popular music is that. I feel that popular music, it changes year by year. Because now,
yeah,
where's R&B? I mean, you have rappers that sing now, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
so so
yeah.
so where's the line drawn between hip hop or rap? Not say hip hop, but where's the line drawn between rap and R&B? There's really no line. It's because you can
Yeah.
have people like Drake or 21 Savage that sing the whole damn song. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and we have Kanye West to blame for that when he decided to come out with an album. He started singing for all the stuff with autotunes and exposed things. Um,
Exactly. So
yeah, and we've
and
got
and
now. Yeah, go ahead.
and a Kanye West thing that just happened on the internet the other day. He asked for permission to use one of Black Sabbath samples, and Ozzy Osbourne quoted, and I quote, said, "No, I'm not going to let you use that. Is because you're anti-Semitic and whatever, whatever." So Kanye, I think he might have replayed it and used it anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And same thing with Donna Summer's
Right, right,
one
right.
of her songs. He asked the family for permission to use it. They
She
said
said no.
no, and he went ahead and sampled it anyway.
Yeah. So
I just listened to a guy who does all these samplings, a podcast on sampling, and what he said was Kanye West asked, they said no, but he still went ahead and did it, knowing that a
mhm,
lawsuit would come.
right.
But he's rich enough that he didn't care about the money, but he wanted to say, "I'm rich enough to be able to do what I want,
Hmm.
and you can't. There's nothing you can do about it." So it wasn't a case of most people will if they want to make money out of it and they want to do it the nice way, they'll get the permission, or they'll do or they'll
Right.
reinterpolate the track. He When they said no, he went ahead and did it because he's got the lawyers, he's got the deep pockets, and he can do what he kind of wants to do. And it was a show of power in there. Um, so it's always a hard thing when you get to Kanye because you don't know how to really interpret or judge him of what he's doing and stuff. But a lot of it is just to go to talk about how the industry um, likes to control things its way,
Right.
and if it doesn't get its way, and you're trying to do things outside the box, then it gets uncomfortable with that.
Right.
Um,
I
I
mean,
think one of the yeah,
Kanye
go
is
ahead.
not doing anything different than the entertainment industry has been doing all its existence. It's just a
Yeah,
black man doing it now. I mean, and see the unfortunate thing about Kanye is that he's a genius. He's a very intelligent man, but his delivery because of his bipolarness, and I mean, obviously, you know more about this than I do, but because of this, in my opinion, it stunts his emotional, it stunts him emotionally when he's trying to communicate.
Yeah.
When you say that he just, he has big pockets, he's going to do what he wants to do. That's the way society's been all the time. They're going to do what they want to do. He's just doing it. And he's a black man. You know what I mean? And so it's like no one has ever seen this before. It's like, F you, I'm going to do what the hell I want to do. I could care less.
Yeah.
You just don't see that, unfortunately.
Well, I
When
think
people,
because most
go ahead.
most
I'm
people
sorry.
who do it are a lot more tactful when they do it,
Yes, yes, yes,
and
yes,
because
yes.
he isn't like the same
It's
thing. Muhammad Ali. Think back
right,
when he was outspoken about the draft, or
right,
he was outspoken about things which everyone agreed to, but
right.
they weren't as forthcoming and vocal when they said it. So that's where you get there are loads of things Kanye went on a rant to say, which then makes anything he comes out to say
Mhm.
hard to listen to because people think us to say, well, you've said this, you've said that, so we it's hard for us to take you seriously.
Okay.
Um,
So
yeah,
I'm going to play devil's advocate, right? So
yeah,
why is it that they're like that when it comes to Kanye, but 50 Cent is the ultimate troller and they just look at him as, oh, that's just 50. I think 50 Cent is someone that will probably never get canceled, is because 50 can say anything he wants to say and they'll just be like, well, that's just 50, because that's 50 likes to start fights. 50 is a marketing genius, but that's just 50. But they do the same thing in certain instances, but they get different backlashes. Now, I don't think 50 would say anything about Jewish people because he's smarter than that
mm,
and he doesn't suffer from bipolar. But 50 has said some wild stuff, man. And 50, I don't know if you've read, I don't 50 is the one that got Puffy, not got him in all that trouble, but got the light put on Puffy because of that whole Cassie thing. He's the one that
mm,
got the light shined on him, because what happened was he found out that Cassie was about to sue Puffy, and then he put it on his Instagram page. And then after that, he put another post up saying, "Yo, Puff," and I'm paraphrasing. He said
yeah,
"Yo, Puff, since I know all of your supporters and all of the companies that are in bed with you are going to drop you, let me buy, because of this Cassie situation. Let me buy your company for on the low." Now, what he meant by that, he was saying that since Coca-Cola, all of those companies that he's in bed with are going to drop him because of this scandal,
yeah,
let me buy Revolt from you. But what he did is he named all the companies. So he named Coca-Cola. He named all the companies that was going to drop Puffy because of the scandal. And what did they do? They dropped him. And so Puffy has to get off. He has to get off all of the boards that he's sitting on. The board of Revolt, because he has the Revolt TV. He has to get off
mm,
all of these boards, is because now he doesn't want this to tarnish his name, and all of the companies that support him in these
mm.
particular businesses will pull out if he stays a chairman or if he stays on the board. Very smart move, 50 Cent.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, yeah.
so,
Well, yeah,
so
yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes when you make your bed, you've got
you
to
gotta lay in it.
you got to lay in it. So if but I think yeah, I mean, yeah, he's gone underground until things blow up and
Yes.
quieten down, and he'll pop up again.
Yeah.
But just one of the final things, just to say, um, it was reported in Billboard and all the trade magazines that the Michael Jackson estate has
Yeah.
sold 50% of his catalog. So he had he Michael's in we can put his Michael Jackson's music catalog into three camps. He first owned 100% of the ATV music catalog, which included all the songs written by John Lennon and Paul
Right.
McCartney.
Right.
That was worth over $2 billion. He owned
Right.
100% of that. In '95, it says that he formed a joint venture with Sony, so he sold half of that to them. So and they merged Sony Publishing with
Hmm.
ATV because that they couldn't afford to pay him. So they like, look, we'll give you half of Sony Music and we'll take half
Right.
of ATV, and
Right.
so you don't. He owns half of Sony Music.
Right.
Um, he had another catalog which was where he owned Sly and the Family Stones. He
Mm-hmm.
owned some Elvis songs. He owned Eminem. He owned, he just was just. I think he had his own. Who else? There was a number of people, of producers who signed to his MJJ publishing. So he only had a
Mm-hmm.
separate publishing. Then
Right.
his third one was his stuff. He owned the masters to his all his recordings,
Right.
and all his music. So he owned three types of publishing. He was, when Sony and Tony Mottola refused to put the money to promote Invincible back in 2001, 2002.
Right.
Michael went on a rant. He had a press conference with Al Sharpton,
Right.
talked
In
about how
Harlem.
in Holland, how they
Michael.
don't do well for black people and stuff.
Yeah.
He had a press conference in the UK where
Mm-hmm.
he said, Sony, he's leaving Sony and he's taking half the publishing and stuff, and they're not happy.
Mm-hmm.
So he was really upset about how Sony treated him, and so he
Mm-hmm.
had his publishing, and he kept that, and that was the pride and joy.
Right.
His estate, since he's passed on, his estate sold the other half of the ATV catalog, the
Mm-hmm.
Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
He cherished that. As soon as he died, within a couple of years, they sold that,
Mm-hmm.
and they have now sold 50% of his other catalog, which is all the Sly and the Family Stones and Elvis and stuff, to Sony again for 600 million. So it values that side of his catalog for 1.2 billion. And the executives of the estate have almost some free reign to be able to make these deals,
Mm-hmm.
despite the fact that Michael was, wanted to build on that, and without any proof, I can't say that Michael was killed so that people can have access to his publishing. But the value of publishing now, compared to before he passed away, is skyrocketed. Everyone is buying their selling, they're just being, lots of these investors and big music labels are buying the publishing rights to a lot of artists, and to the fact that they've valued Michael's stuff to over 1.5 billion, and they've bought it. And I wonder if he was still alive now, would he have been open to selling? Because he didn't seem like he did. He had the Beatles stuff since 82 or 84. He fell out of friendship with Paul McCartney because he bought it from, and kept on to that. I
Yeah.
mean, your thoughts as an outsider like the rest of us, watching into the, we don't know about the ins and outs of the Michael Jackson stuff, but thoughts about that?
Okay. So first of all, the backstory of that Michael Jackson Paul McCartney relationship was, Paul McCartney hipped Michael Jackson to publishing. He was just like talking to him. Like, I don't know whether it was at the Say video shoot or the Girl Is Mine video shoot. I don't know but I know that he had hipped him to publishing. And Michael kept quiet about it. And what people do not understand or know about publishing is that this is how publishing works. Publishing works like this. In a nutshell, I'll break it down as I'll give you a short version. You and I write a song, okay? If you and I write a song, it's 100% of the song, and it's you and I. So let's just say you and I write the song, and it's 50-50%. All right, so that means you get 50%, I get 50%. But when we sign, but if we sign, you and I are in a group, we're artists. When we sign to a major label or a record label, they are going to want some of the publishing from us. It's up to us to negotiate how much we give them. So let's say we give them 25%. So they get 25%, we get the rest, whatever between the two of us. If we use samples in that particular song, that means we have to pay out whoever we sampled. So that's also a percentage, right? So at the end of the day, this is how it works. What happens is if a song becomes a hit record, let's just say Neo, for instance. Okay, so let's say Neo in his prime. Neo in his prime when he wrote his album. Then he wrote To the Left for Beyonce, and then he wrote what's that song with Rihanna? A couple of songs with Rihanna. He wrote a couple of songs with Mario. Let's just say in his heyday, all of those songs become hit records. I don't know how they play them in the UK, but there's this thing in New York. There's this thing in America called heavy rotation. Heavy rotation is on the radio, and heavy rotation is usually when you wake up in the morning and go to work. That's when you hear records playing. Lunchtime, you hear records playing, and then on your way home. That's heavy rotation. If a record is playing in heavy rotation, that means it's playing in those three slots, but not only those three slots, all through the day. In every town, in every city of America, they have at least 3 or 4 radio stations that play that song heavy rotation. So you figure 4 radio stations in every town, plus a couple of college radio stations. So let's say there's 6 radio stations in every town. Let's calculate all of the towns in America. And then what happens is when at the end of 6 months, ASCAP or BMI pays out how many times that record is played over the radio. And that's how you get your publishing. And that's just off of writers on the radio. There's also this thing called mechanical publishing, where if you watch television and you hear a song on television, then you get paid for that also. So that's the breakdown of publishing. Now, publishing comes up. It goes away every years, like every couple of years. I can't really remember the years, but let's just say it's 7 to 10 years, right? It comes back up for grabs. When the Beatles catalog came back up for grabs, the Beatles weren't speaking. And so Michael Jackson bought all of the Beatles, not all of it, but a percentage of the Beatles catalog. When you buy that Beatles catalog, that means that's ownership. Every time that record plays in anywhere around the world, you get paid. I've literally seen a check for a person for like $100,000 that wrote a record on the Johnny Gill first album. It was called Lady du Jour. He wrote, and that Lady du Jour wasn't even a single, but the My album, he wrote Lady du Jour, and he passed away from a motorcycle accident, and he got a check for like $150,000, $180,000. And what's so ironic, it was his mother didn't know that she had it. He passed away, and his mother asked someone to open up his mail for him because she didn't want to open his mail. And there was a check there for like $150,000-$60,000 from the My album from Johnny Gill, from the song Lady du Jour. So that's how you make your money in publishing. And I'm saying that to say this. Back in the days, a lot of artists, they would like James Brown, Sam Cooke, Otis Redding. A lot of these people would write their own music and write their own songs, and they wouldn't sell them off. And so what would happen was they try and kill them. The mafia would try and kill them off. Like there's conspiracy theories about Sam Cooke, about how he died, about Otis Redding, how he dies. So it's all about ownership. And so when you own these things, it's generational wealth, if you will. And so in this particular business, that can be a problem. And so as it pertains to the Michael Jackson catalog, he had to sell. Well, they bought it back from him. They bought it back. And I didn't tell you, when Michael Jackson was giving that interview, it was in Harlem at Reverend, what is his name?
Was it Al Sharpton?
Reverend Al Sharpton. It was at his nonprofit organization in Harlem, and my mother was there. Right. So my mother was sitting right next to Michael, and Michael was sitting right next to Mary J. Blige, because Mary J. Blige was also there. And what it was, no one knew Michael was going to be there. And my mom was shocked. I was like, Umi, why didn't you get to take a picture with him? She was like, because they rushed him in and rushed him out. And that's where you see the scene where he says, Tommy Mottola is the devil. Tommy Mottola. Yeah. That was in Harlem. My mom was there. And so, yes, publishing is very, 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 very big and lucrative. It's about ownership. And so that's the reason why all of these artists, or a lot of these artists, are trying to buy back their music. But here's the caveat. If your music is not popular at the time, then you have to weigh the pros and cons of whether you want to buy certain songs back. certain publishing songs back. So like if Jay-Z passed away today, his publishing would go up the roof because he's gone, he's passed away, and you become richer when you become more popular when you're dead as opposed to when you're rich. So because say Jay-Z passed away today, all of that publishing would go to his family because he owns that publishing. So with Michael Jackson, by Michael Jackson being gone, all of what they can do is they can keep putting out Michael Jackson albums and things of that nature. So the family does not see any of that. And that all depends on what percentage of publishing Michael Jackson kept for himself. So it's a very slippery slope, this publishing deal. But what I would say to every artist out there, try and own as much of the publishing as you possibly can. However, it's all about ownership, and you know how like why buy a pie and just get a piece, get the whole pie. But these companies out there, they won't let you these days because you have things like Spotify, you have all these things that take so much credit from you, and you can't sustain. And a lot of Black people do not have the capital to buy back all of that publishing. Like the Jackson family can't buy back that publishing. They can't afford to do that, unfortunately.
No,
you know what I mean? So it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, I mean, there was. I do remember that. You just put it up here that back in '84 or so, an Australian mogul who owned the ATV catalog. Yeah, he wanted to sell for 45 million, and of course, definitely Michael Jackson had the Thriller cash,
Right.
and it was easy for him to outbid Paul McCartney for that.
Right.
And because the Beatles weren't talking, they kind of missed the boat on that. And you know, Michael had all this money, didn't know how to invest it, and John Lennon says, "Hey man, get it.
Publishing.
I'm getting into publishing it, and you know, and Michael just took it and
ran with
him for the. So it's the fact that he could license anyone to use the Beatles songs in anywhere and anytime, you know, and but now that's taken away from him because the executives at his estate have sold that back to Sony, and as I said, they valued his publishing empire at 1.5. Can you just imagine if they're willing to buy? I think they bought the ATV stuff for $500 million. And now 6 months later, half of this other publishing he has, they're valuing it at 1.2 billion, and they're buying half for 600 million. It just shows you how much that 45 million dollar investment he made, and the fact that they own all the stuff has gone through the roof. Hence, like they did Sam Cooke and others, it is like if you're not ready to pay ball. You know, it's easy for now. They've got hold of it now that he's not around.
Right.
More so than when he was around, because the estate just wants to manage the money.
Yeah.
The family, but that is definitely a shame. But as I said, we can't. You know, there's no proof for any of this stuff. It's just circumstantial. But it is sad to see that they're selling it off because, you know, great estates from, you know, think about. The guy Ian Fleming who did James Bond. Most of the estates who even do Snoopy or Garfield, the state own the stuff, and they license it out and they still manage it.
Right.
So why should the Michael Jackson estate sell off his stuff instead of keeping it within the trust for the kids?
Now, when you say the estate, do you mean the lawyers or do you
the
mean
lawyers?
the family?
So there's John McCain and John Baraka, who are the executors of the estate. So Michael's mom and children and siblings, they can benefit from the estate. You know, they get a pocket money. The money is always going to be theirs. But decisions around the running it, the executors make those decisions.
Wow.
Of course, they get a salary for running the estate.
Wow.
So they get a salary for running it, but the kids, all they can do is just get their monthly stipends and the family, which is a lot. But it's the fact that they can't make any decisions to control if things get bought or sold.
So I think I might have heard Rodney Jerkins even say in an interview that Michael asked him to buy his publishing. I think I saw an
No,
interview.
I think Michael wanted to buy Mike Rodney's
Yeah,
publishing.
that's what I mean. Yeah, because
Yeah, yeah,
Michael would do that. He'd be like, "You want to sell your publishing?" You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So
He was buying it out. I mean, there was a story, and I don't know how true this is, that Michael Eminem, was making fun of
uh-huh.
Michael, and he bought the
And he
publishing
bought
company
right,
behind whatever
right.
it is to yeah, and but that's so when you see someone who started since the 80s to
Hmm.
build something up, and of course it is the life lesson that once you die, you pretty much go with nothing, even though you've acquired all this stuff.
Right,
But the fact that it's sold off, and it's been, it's almost as if he wouldn't have wanted it to be sold. He valued it, but it's been sold off.
right,
And for what reason? That's when you say he's out the way. You can do anything.
right.
But
And it's a shame, right? So I mean, so my question is, and again, I'm playing the devil's advocate. And my question is the problem the people that we put in charge of these estates, or is the problem like the families? Because you don't really see these things happening with the Rockefellers, right? I mean, the Rockefellers have been gone for many, many years, but in my opinion, I think that some of the descendants of the Rockefellers still benefit from the money that has been made over these many, many years.
yeah.
And
So
the
that
Rothschilds, the Kennedys. I mean, and I guess obviously it's a case by case basis, right? But I think maybe it probably depends on who you put in charge of your estate. I'm assuming. Am I correct? Or maybe not. I
Yeah,
don't know.
so when Mike died, a a judge temporarily gave control of the estate to his mum
Hmm.
because he named her in the will.
Hmm.
Then a few months later, a will was discovered,
Oh, of course it
that
was.
written in 2002, where Michael changed his will to say that in the event if he dies, then his mom and Diana Ross will look after his kids, and then lawyers who he hadn't worked with for many years
Hmm.
were, surprisingly brought back in to say to be executors of his estate.
Hmm.
So that was so people, so actually the Jackson family tried to sue to get that changed, but when that will came, the judge says, hey, it looks as if it was written by Mike, and it was written in 2002, so this is when he was going through that whole Sony situation,
Hmm.
um, whether he was, when he changed it at that point in time, and
Hmm.
no one could find the will. But the executives are the ones who say, look, we're tasked to run the business. So imagine if your dad formed a company,
Hmm.
and the board run the company, but you get your money at the end of the month. You own the shares, but you don't have a decision as to how
The
the
company's
business
run.
is run. Yeah, but you
Right.
get paid from it, so you're benefiting financially, but you don't have a decision as how it's been run, and
Right.
that's what happens. His kids and family don't have a decision as to they want to do a bio, they want to lease out this, as long as it's generating revenue, they don't have
Wow.
a say.
Wow.
So that's, and as I said, as a black man, black business,
Mm.
you would assume and hope that they would try and create a legacy by
Right.
keeping it. But
Right.
when you start selling it off, what else are you leaving? Money comes and goes, but these kind of
Right.
things, they yeah.
Right.
But
Wow,
anyway,
man. Yeah, that's just very, very, yeah. I mean, it's always very informative. It's obviously things that we know about, but they are always revisited in depth, unfortunately. And the sad thing about it is that these things are not only for people that are celebrities. These learning experiences aren't only for people that are celebrities and have a lot of money. These learning experiences should be for the average family, black family, white family, family of color, average family to look into these things and understand that, listen, man, if we do not get our paperwork done properly,
Yeah.
somebody's going to take it from us.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
even if we do get it done properly, someone is going to try. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So you have to have these ironclad contracts and hard conversations with your families to understand that this is what happens when you pass away. You know what I mean? A
Yeah.
friend of mine
Yeah.
always told me is that the snakes always come out. The snakes always come out when at a funeral, and the biggest lies are told at funerals, because you could be a damn tyrant, and when you die, someone will say that you just accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior last night. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's
but
very
you know,
interesting.
yeah. But as I think for those of us who aren't, we don't have maybe billions of dollars in tied up in stuff.
Right.
Even trying to get your parents, to look at their to put their house in order.
Right.
Um, where's the property? Let's make sure the will is up to, within I can tell about Nigerian community. If you talk
Mm-hmm.
to your parents about is your will and stuff up to date, they'll think, are you trying to kill me to take my
Right.
stuff? And it's
Right.
like, well,
Right.
no.
Right.
If you go right now, all your cousins and neighbors will come and take ownership, and what we're gonna do, they're fighting
Right.
for it. So it is important to try and get their stuff
Right.
in order and put getting people that you can trust.
Right.
But guys, as this was ourselves and Idris just having our say on things around the music industry. I mean, we start off, for those who came later, we start off talking about Usher's
Right.
performance at the Super Bowl and celebrating what he achieved, but also um, also looking at the fact that people were the comments they had about him and Alicia Keys was not really great. Because Usher did his thing at both performances. We also then looked in the Grammys and how Jay-Z has pretty much set the bar to say, look, man, my wife's coming out with an album in March, and you better make sure she wins album of the year next year, or
Exactly.
there'll be trouble. And so I'm waiting to see if she does win. Then I know
Yeah.
that the whole
We'll see.
system is rigged. It's rigged.
Exactly. We'll know.
And then we'd also just talked about Taylor Swift as well. I mean, Beyonce was on track to have the biggest tour ever with
Mm-hmm.
her Renaissance tour, but then Taylor that's almost been swept that aside. She's still halfway, still touring in Japan, and she hasn't
Mm-hmm.
finished.
And
I
she's
mean,
not
so
finished yet.
she's not finished. She looks as if she's going to take things to another level. Um, and it's and for me, as we both said, since I Am Salsa First, Beyonce has pretty much disappeared. She only does promotional videos, and when she's out there, she looks as if she's been under house arrest when she's talking. So
Exactly.
we've we've lost the person of Beyonce. And so when you're releasing stuff, you're not we don't feel it's being connected. There's a connection um, with the people out there. She used to have. She used to be very good in public and in interviews, but that just seems to be ebbed away. So yeah, so I mean, next time we will look at some other things that are making the news and about the industry, things to look out for. And as I said, we can only give our opinions. Nothing is we don't need lawsuits from Sony Music because we're not saying
Exactly.
by fact. We're just giving our opinions on things as well. But how was it today, Idris? Was there anything else that you wanted to say before we wrap up?
No, man. I mean, I really, again, that Usher performance was amazing. Shout out to A Town. And as it pertains to Atlanta, also, I mean, Mike, Killer Mike, he swept it with all of the Grammys for rap, for the rap category. Even though they didn't show it on television, it was absolutely amazing to see. Um, what's going on now is probably the same thing going on over there. Everybody's waiting for this Beyonce country album to come out, so we're gonna have to check this out. I haven't even listened to the song yet, so I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see what she does. Oh, there was this tweet or from what's her name? She's been doing country. K Michelle. K Michelle was like on Instagram. She was like, I don't know why y'all are all calling me I know I made the first country album, and I wish Beyonce the best. I guess people are calling K Michelle or tweeting, asking her how does she feel that Beyonce made a country album, and K Michelle is behind Beyonce 100%. She's saying she's going to support, and so those are the things that are happening. I mean, things are forming little by little, so we'll have a lot more to talk about in the near future.
Yeah, but what is she supposed to say? Well, I don't know why is she going to be
Yeah,
country? So because yeah,
yeah.
she get run out of town.
Exactly, man.
You
Those,
get run out of town.
those beehives are no joke. The
You get.
beehives are no joke. So I don't mess
So
with the
as I said,
beehive.
we're not bashing Beyonce, but I just said
No,
since I am satisfied, you don't, you don't, she doesn't do any press. She doesn't.
right.
And some somebody would say, um, Select Global says Beyonce never had a strong persona. And I would, somewhat disagree. I've seen her when she was with Destiny's Child, and when she first came out, she was joking around. There was no guard when she would talk to journalists, and even if she. I remember there was one interview she was with Destiny's Child, and she said that they asked her if she could come back as anything, what would it be? And she said, I think she said a snake.
Oh, really?
Um,
Interesting.
yeah, no, she says she has a pet snake, but she wanted to come back as I can't remember what it was, but a whale. So she was just joking
Interesting.
around. But it was
Right.
just the fact that there was no God, and it doesn't. It's night and day to the Beyonce that we see now, who would
This
say
is
her
true.
piece,
She was even
and
doing movies back then. She doesn't
she was,
even.
yeah, she was
Yeah,
doing
she's
movies.
yeah, yeah.
But now everything. I remember when she did The Lion King,
Right.
and Jon Stewart from joked that there was a picture with the whole cast,
Hmm.
and Beyonce was in the picture, but he says no, Beyonce wasn't there. They left the space. So when they were taking the picture, the whole cast of The Lion King came together, and they
Hmm.
left the space to say, okay, so unfortunately Beyonce's not going to be able to join us, but we're going to be able to take her picture later on and put it in there, so make space. So she,
Mm.
so as I said, just over the last 10 years, she has I won't say been a recluse, but she's not the person. If so, any of you, it's quite easy. Look, just search interviews from Beyonce,
Hmm.
up to Dangerously in Love, and maybe
Hmm.
I Am Sasha first, and then look at interviews from Beyonce over the last 7 years, and just watch the most interviews she would do has been in a controlled environment,
Right.
but no one just sitting down and just sat and sitting and asking a question and she just responds spontaneously. It's none of that.
Mm.
So who knows why? But as you mentioned, when Taylor Swift puts her heart and soul and her life in her songs, it seems to resonate to people who buy and listen
Right.
and do awards compared to what Beyonce is doing now. Not that she's not talented, but it just seems like going to see an abstract painting and you're not really into art. It's like, when she did the Lemonade, or when she did
Hmm.
what was the yeah. So she's done. She did one with Jay-Z, or so I can't remember what was
The Carters.
the
It was
Carters.
yeah, the Carter album. Yeah.
They're just doing. She's doing things that it's like, okay, not bad. Even Renaissance. I mean, she doing all disco and stuff, and
Yeah.
most of us would say, well, that's not really R&B. We don't really like that. But Sony played it so often that I hated Coffits and You Can't Break My Soul, but it was played so often that I just it comes on, I'm singing along with it. It was just put it was planted. I couldn't get out of it. It was forced upon me. All the channels, the BBC are playing it. It's like, okay, well, I might as well sing along to it because
Sing
there's
along.
nothing else. Yeah.
And then
So
if you have kids, the kids are singing it, and you're like, ah.
yeah, yeah. So that was it. So anyway, but it was definitely good for those who joined in and got involved. It's and commented. This is, as I said, we want to just try and expose some of the things in the industry. But shout out to Usher for an
Absolutely.
amazing show. He's been doing this since the early '90s, and I just like, man, this guy had hits upon hits and hits,
Oh
and he
yeah.
just had the whole performance, and he's an independent artist releasing his own music
Right.
and headlining, and so good on him, definitely good on him. Well, it is. I mean, we'll do this again another time and find
Absolutely,
some
man.
other
Thank you.
topics and stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, but we want to thank you guys again, and as I said, we'll try and find some other topics down the road.